Hey, what's up, guys? True follower here once again. And yeah, I made a video just like uh, earlier. It's like 10:55 p.m. where I'm at, Oklahoma. But anyway, yeah, I'm an Okie. But anyway, besides that, some other things I needed to get out that I probably didn't say correctly in the last video. Uh, Shotana, Shotana. He made this video 7 years ago. Hold on, you gotta bear with me. It's on my TV. But yeah, this guy here. See, this is his content. He gets full credit for this.
Spoiler. Spoiler alert. For the love of God.
But he's the one that first said that he thinks that there's a good chance that the dad from Fallout 3 is father of the Institute are both the same guy. I do agree with that, but I also think that the whole memory implant with Kellogg was put in there. And like, because, okay, from Fallout 3 to Fallout 4's timeline, when the Enclave show up at Project Purity, and it looks like James, the father of Fallout 3's character, looks like he dies. Well, he could have. I mean, the other guy, I can't even think of his name now. Man, I'm horrible at this. But anyway, I know what I'm talking about. But the colonel guy that works for the so-called John Henry Eden, your president. But anyway, that guy injects himself with something, and he's still alive. I believe he's still alive. And I think that the Enclave would have came in there because you and Dr. Lee and the rest of them people hurry up and get you out of there, and so that way they can go to the Brotherhood to get the big bad Brotherhood to come and defend them and fight their fight for them, so that way they can take Project Purity back. In that while that you're gone, they could have picked up your dad in the for the lore of the story, maybe not in the actual game. I don't know. I don't know if your dad's body's still laying there at the end of the game or not. I'd have to play Fallout 3 again for the 17th time. That part I don't remember. But then you also have the Broken Still DLC that changes the end of the story. So I'll have to go. I'm probably gonna play through all that again just so I can get everything like exact details, unless Bethesda had a kink in that. But I think either way, I think that Father, aka Sean, and James of Fallout 3, the father of your character from the Lone Wanderer's dad, I think they are the same guy. And the player you play as in Fallout 4, you're a synthetic being. You're not even really the real you. Like the real you of the memories that you are functioning on. Oh my God, my son Sean was taken and they shot my wife as Nate. That's not the real Nate. And who's to say that Nate was his real name? They could implant your name of what you believe your name is as well. I mean, think about it. They create synths in the Institute, and they name them all these weird names, and then the Railroad helps people and gives them like new identities with a new name, and then they implant that new name so that way that synth believes that's their name now. So the James, aka Father, aka Sean, whoever he is, probably changed everything in the last 10 years before Fallout 4's timeline, because that's when he took over, because Zimmer was probably in charge technically temporarily. He was not named like the actual director, because the director before that was a woman. So they were just letting the SRB kind of control things under Zimmer's control, is what I believe, but not officially or nothing. And then when they realized Zimmer wasn't coming back, they were like, oh, well, we need to appoint someone else in charge. Oh, hey, what about James? And then Dr. Lee, since she's there, because she was there before he would have been there, because she took off and went to the Institute, because it even says that she left the Capital Wasteland and headed toward the Commonwealth. Okay, so she was there first, so she would have recommended, well, I know he's been through a lot, but I think he would make a great director. And then she got some of the other people, the scientists that were there, to probably back that. And then next thing you know, here comes father being pushed as the main guy, because clear back when he was a child, maybe he was raised by the Institute people. Maybe he wasn't a baby that was taken from Vault 111 if he's not really Sean to begin with, and maybe that's not even his story to begin with. But that's what we're led to believe because that's what they put out there. So what I'm saying is if all that's true, and the whole deal with I said about Deacon, Johnny D being the leader of the railroad, because he ends up saying that, but when he says he's the actual leader of the railroad, I think he's not lying about that. I think Deacon's actually finally to that point, he's like, okay, I'm going to tell this guy real stuff because he's been rolling with me for a while. So I think he finally tells you a few truth things, but most of them, he throws all those lies in there to keep your mind guessing because he doesn't know 100% if he can trust the sole survivor or not. He thinks he can, but then when it blows up that, oh, the guy running the institute's your son, then he's kind of dumbfounded about it because it's like he had no idea as well. So, but then I think it'd be another twist if it turns out that Deacon is Johnny D, which is one of the first 3 original founders of the railroad. I don't think that was the actual beginning of the railroad. I think that was the beginning of the second version of the railroad. The railroad probably started with some other people we haven't even heard of, and those people are the ones that pushed it to the next level by liberating synths, further, and if there is a way that I've seen that you can actually beat Fallout 4, and the railroad, the Brotherhood, and the Minutemen are all 3 still alive, and without them wiping each other out. And I think that would make more sense to be the actual lore for an end game situation that only the Institute gets wiped out, but making it be where the first time you have the Minutemen or the Brotherhood help you build the teleporter, and then when you go back in, because you're going to end up getting kicked out of the Institute at some point, and then when you go back, that's when you go back to use the railroad to go back in at the very end when you push the button to get rid of the Institute. Tinker Tom goes in there and he's doing stuff on the computer and this and that. I would think that they're going in there and getting all the technology of how to build synths. So that way the railroad, if they're wanting to liberate synths, that they would have went in there to get the technology of how to build synths, create them, and be able to liberate them, because their whole cause is to save synths. They would not blow that place up. So that part doesn't make sense. But because of game plot situation, you do blow up the Institute, but they would have at least taken the technology of how to build synths and continue the whole process of it. That's why I also say that there's another establishment, and I think there's a certain other city, I don't want to say which one it is, but it's connected because this might give it away to everybody that watches this video. But anyways, when you talk to Nick Valentine, yes, he's from Chicago. Big hint there. But anyway, his memories were downloaded, but somehow they wound up at the CIT, which links Chicago and Boston together with Nick Valentine's character. Well, the Institute ends up stumbling upon Nick Valentine's actual real memories that was downloaded, and then they decide to put that in a prototype synth, and that's how Nick Valentine exists. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, that they would not have blown it up without taking documentation on how to build the synths, and it doesn't show that in the gameplay or anything, but to me that would make sense that they would have taken that, and maybe in a further Fallout story, just saying, wink, wink, that there's probably another place that you're going to be able to recreate synths. And I think it would be wise in the gaming mechanics that you can build a synth and design it to your liking. You, the player, are like designing a synth like as if when you design your own character, it's like the same thing. You're designing what color their hair is going to be, like their eyes. Are they going to have mechanical parts showing? Are they going to be fully human all the way and look synthetically like an exact human? And have all these details that you can create the synth yourself. And then there's another database side where it has all the memories of different people. And then you can like download the memories from this person into that robot or synthetic human being. And then that robot functions with the personality that you gave it. And the new version of the railroad with a different name, because we're going up. This would be a higher level of the railroad, which means it's going to have a different name, but it's all railroad. It's railroad agents going under a different code name. And then back to the Pinky, when I was talking about he did facial recognition, I didn't mean recognition, I meant facial reconstructive surgery, because Deacon says that he's changed himself into a ghoul and all these different stories that he did. Okay, well, the Pinky is kind of a hint, and I've seen nobody put that in any videos on YouTube, or I've never seen it on anything where people talk about Fallout 3, Fallout 4, any of that stuff, or Deacon's character. The Pinkerton guy that you have to go get the information for the Replicated Man mission in Rivet City in Fallout 3, the Pinkerton guy is probably Pinky, because the railroad uses what? Code names. Oh, what do you want us to call you? Bullseye? Oh, and if you don't pick nothing, then they call you the Wanderer in Fallout 4, right? So everybody that's a railroad agent is probably not labeled under their real name. That's why he changed his to Deacon, because Deacon's probably his last name. Johnny D. The last name is probably Deacon. So he just said, I'll just go by Deacon. So that's an alias. It's part of his name, probably, yes. But instead of saying, hey, call me Johnny D or Johnny Deacon, he just goes by Deacon. Because everybody in the railroad probably has a code name, and they go by those code names. So Pinkerton is probably Pinky. Watts, I don't remember, Victoria Watts? I think it was Victoria Watts, something like that. And she's that lady that's sitting at the pool table in Rivet City that tries to like deflect you from messing with Hawkins or whatever his name is. Hawkins? I can't say his name right, probably. But the dude that's actually a synth that's Zimmer's property. She's trying to deflect you because she's like all about the railroad in Fallout 3. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on is the Creation Club did some stuff with tunnel snakes and all that. The tunnel snake thing is probably going to be put away because the only real tunnel snake that we've never heard nothing else from was Butch. And he said, I'm going to go make a gang better than the tunnel snakes. Okay, well, and I don't know. I think it's a great idea because to carry on something about Butch in a further future Fallout game, which I'm just letting you know, I think that's a great idea. Wink, wink. Maybe. Might be in my story. I don't know. But when you go back to Vault 111 in Fallout 3, they call the young crowd the Rebels. And then you got the security side of the vault when everything's going down and you got to go down there and fix the problem and like make peace with everybody or whatever. So Rebels, Butch, the new leader of his own gang. I think Rebels, that was a like kind of like a Easter egg hint that Butch is probably going to be a part of a gang called the Rebels in the future. So that makes sense to me, and it'd be like the slicker, greaser kind of guys, and then you got Fallout New Vegas, you got lots of NPCs that could be carried over into another game that would have survived after New Vegas's timeline back in the 2281 era, all the way up to, let's say, 2293. Okay, 2293 I think would be a good year for a good setting for a Fallout 5, because if you're going to carry on the number, see what I'm saying? Like Fallout 1, boom. Fallout 2, boom. Fallout 3, boom. Fallout 4, boom. Fallout 5 should be further in the future of a timeline. That should never, if you're going consistently, then that should never go back in the timeline and be like, oh, Fallout 5 happened before Fallout 76. No. Let's not ever do that. That would, to me, that would ruin it. That would ruin it for the main people that love the franchise of Fallout. And Bethesda knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing. I believe in Todd Howard. I'm just saying, I do believe that they know what they're doing. I think they're stumped because they're creative writers and some of the people that make these missions for like Fallout 4 for example, I think they did drop the ball on a few things with Fallout 4. But the gaming mechanics and the map of Boston is phenomenal. Fallout 76 is phenomenal for the size of the map. Not so much the gaming mechanics and the glitches and all the other stuff with 76. I've not played 76 personally, but I have YouTubed it. I watch Oxhorn a lot. It's got some good things. And Modus, okay, the whole thing with the Enclave. Whole nother thing with the Enclave. The Enclave, okay, Fallout 76 is Vault. Vault 76 was obviously a control vault. So I think potentially any of the 17 control vaults that we follow, as far as we know with the lore, there's supposed to be 17 control vaults, and all the rest of them have experiments. So I don't think 76 was an experiment. I think Modus, because of the mutiny that happened with all the, like the top guys of the Enclave, secret government, shadow government, whatever, had a falling out, and they all went against each other, and then Modus decided, you know what, I'm just wiping you all out, because none of you knows what you're doing. The Modus took it upon himself to wipe them all out, because he didn't know who, the AI didn't know who to trust. When there's two different sides, he just wiped them all out. That's what I believe. But anyway, that's what 76 tells me from that. But 76, like other vaults that are control vaults, are potential contingency plans for the Enclave to bring in new people that they can become Enclave members to carry on the Enclave's true agenda. Just in case something did happen with their private secret bunkers that I believe that they have all over the entire United States. Why do you think there's 13 stars around the big E with the Enclave symbol? Because each Commonwealth has its own branch of Enclave. It's got to. Every Commonwealth that we, because it's broke up into 13 Commonwealths, right? And that's like 4 states here, 3, 4, 5 states here, all that, right? That means that in different places of the world, across the United States anyway, there's going to be different hidden bunkers that have Enclave soldiers. And I don't think that Fallout 4's Vault 111 was the first time that they've cryogenically froze anybody either. I think the Enclave knew that that would work. And Fallout 4 Vault 111 could have potentially been a few members in there that were supposed to be Enclave, but maybe when Father, aka Sean, which is not Sean, I believe that's actually James from Fallout 3, when they interrupted the vault, that's what I think ended up messing up the life support on the frozen people in there, and that's what would have actually killed all those people, because someone else tampered with the vault. That's what killed everybody. That was not part of the plan. Everybody that was in the actual Vault 111 were probably, just like Fallout 76, they were possibly going to be Enclave members, but without a AI there. They probably had some kind of mission log that was going to be there, but when the other people realized, oh, well, this vault's only set up for so many days. Well, that's because everybody was supposed to be frozen that whole time. They're not supposed to be in there eating and hanging out. They're supposed to be frozen and then unfrozen when it's their time to come out, put on the Enclave stuff, and go out into Boston as an Enclave force, and then touch back with the Institute to see how things have went. There's probably some kind of mission log saying something where the Enclave and the Institute is somehow connected, because those were scientists of CIT. Of course, they're going to be connected with the Enclave before the bombs fell. So what I'm saying is, I believe that's all connected. We just don't know because they haven't put all this into a game yet to develop a full on story. But if you put Johnny D, which is actually Deacon, and you put Father, which is actually James, the Lone Wanderer's dad, if you put that as the actual reality behind the scenes, you got a killer story there. If I was Bethesda, I would roll with that. I would roll with that like hardcore, somehow tagging that back in. And then the other part of it, what I think would be really ultimate, is to make it where the Carrier 6 from Fallout New Vegas was actually Kellogg. If you pulled all that together, you would have had all the people from all the other games, well, besides the Chosen One and the original Vault Dweller, because they would be dead by now. But all the previous new games, kind of, since Bethesda's taken it, all in Fallout 4. They would all been there. So you would have had the Lone Wanderer, which was Johnny D. Deacon. You would have had his dad. And then you would have had Kellogg as the Courier 6 coming all the way across to the East Coast, because he's no longer working for the She. Yeah, I think that would make sense. I think Kellogg could actually be the Courier 6, because if you go back and play Fallout New Vegas, you can get implants in that game. What does Kellogg have? Implants! He already has implants. All the Institute was doing is adding some shit to them. Oh, sorry about my language, but anyway, they were adding something to him. That way they could put a memory implant in him, like I said earlier. That way they could play this whole labyrinth thing out to find out if the Sole Survivor or Kellogg, which one's going to win. It was all a test. It was all an experiment, because Sole Survivor is a synth. I believe all that. I believe that's the true nature behind the writers of Fallout 4, Fallout 3, the true writer of Fallout, whoever's been writing it. And even when they pushed it and let Obsidian make Fallout New Vegas, they had some kind of plot and said, hey, here's the plot. Here's what we want in there, but this is kind of the story, but we want you guys to develop the game. The story was pretty well already put together by Bethesda. All Obsidian did, I believe, is put the actual coding of the game together with what they had. I don't think they fully developed. I don't think they got to name NPCs. I don't think they got to plot out what missions were going to go where. I think it was all laid out for them, and I think Obsidian just put together what was before them. Like, they already had everything laid out. Like it's like taking a skeleton apart and say, okay, put the skeleton together back the way you think a human body looks. You'd pretty well be able to do that, I would think, the first try. So that's pretty much what I think Obsidian did, and they came out with a pretty good game. I'm not gonna lie, Fallout New Vegas is really good, but because they had such a short time, there is some things that could have been different and could have been better even with that game. And then Fallout 76 is good story-wise. After they added the DLCs with the Wastelanders and the Brotherhood of Steel and all that stuff on there, that made that kind of good story-wise. I don't know about the gaming mechanics. I think the gaming mechanics still to this day, Fallout 4 has it, because that's where they changed the power armor, where you're actually getting into a suit, mechanical, and it feels like you're actually in an actual XO1, exoskeleton type, Iron Man looking type suit. So to me, Fallout 4 has a huge blessing. I like Fallout 4, not for the story, but the power armor, the shooting, the map, done brilliantly. The story's okay, but there's some holes. Like I said before in my very first deal, when I was talking about Billy, the little kid, Peabody, with his mom and dad still being alive, and they're all regular ghouls, and they still are talking, and 200 years later they didn't ever find him. I get that. All the critics that say all that stuff, that all makes sense. I agree with the critics, but I also agree with Bethesda they could have left that out. But then there's a possibility that maybe there are different genetics of ghouls. Some do eat, maybe some don't. Maybe some are literally immortal and don't have to breathe air. That's a little far-fetched, but maybe there is. Maybe that is a possibility. And then we haven't even touched the surface on, there's like what, psychers? You know, people that had FEV injected into their brain and they have telepathic abilities and different stuff. Now, like, that opens up a whole lot of stuff. Like, there could be so many other races of other genetic race beings that we haven't even seen in a Fallout game yet. And like I don't remember where that one place was called in Fallout 3, but there was people that thought they were vampires. I think that would be something to go with, which would be really cool. Have some people with like gray skin, and their DNA got altered somehow. They're not ghouls and they're not super mutants. They're a whole nother race, but they do feed on blood. They actually do truly feed on blood, and they actually have to have it. It's not a game. It's not fake. So it'd be like a Fallout version of what would be considered a cannibal / vampire. But I wouldn't do it like they did in Fallout 3, where those people are, you know, that's like an occult that just drinks blood. But I think there should be something added with that, so the occult goes out and does the hunting for them in the daylight and brings other humans in, so that way this other race can continue surviving. I haven't figured out quite what I'm going to name that race yet, but that will be somewhere in Fallout 5. If I get to write Fallout 5 and Bethesda finally says, oh man, this dude's brilliant, we don't know where the heck he came from. Well, I'm right here. But anyways, I know so much lore on Fallout stuff.